Heading into Week 7's matchup against the Carolina Panthers, the Chicago Bears are sitting at 2-4. Mitchell Trubisky has 2 NFL starts under his belt. The Bears had lost a close matchup to the Minnesota Vikings on Monday night in Week 5. Then Week 6, they go on the road to Baltimore and squeak out a win over the Ravens. Sitting at 2-4, young quarterback, defense that's kind of coming together. You're wondering what they've got. But also looking at it and saying the Carolina Panthers should be the better team on paper. They should be able to go into Chicago and handle business, even though the Bears can play these guys tough. Well, ultimately, that's why they play the game. Because if somebody didn't know any better and they turned on the TV, they would think the Chicago Bears were the threat to win their division. They would think the Chicago Bears were the playoff team. They would think the Carolina Panthers had major questions at the quarterback position. They would think the Carolina Panthers had the really bad offense. They would think that the Carolina Panthers were the team in transition, the team losing, and the team that's sitting there and trying to figure it out and rebuild. It's just crazy how the NFL works from one week to the next. There's not even really any rhyme or reason for what happens. And ultimately, the story of the day for the Chicago Bears was the defense. This was one of those old 1980s types of victories for the Chicago Bears, where the defense was dominant. They stuffed Carolina's offense when they needed to. They made some big plays, scored some points off of turnovers, and the offense just sat there and said, hey, you know what, we'll try not to turn the ball over and screw the pooch. We'll keep it close. We'll hold them off. And then defense, you get it on the field and you score 6. It's very reminiscent, actually, if you want to go way back in history, of the Bill Wade 63 Bears with that great defense with Larry Morris and Bill George and Ed O'Bradovich. That's what it reminds me of, is going back in history and look at, you hear the old stories from the 63 Bears talking about they would tell the offense, you know, keep it close, boys, get us back on the field and we'll get you 6. That's what this felt like. Early on in the game, you know, Carolina's driving and right away, and it looks like, uh-oh, here we go. And then the Bears, who have struggled most of the year to create and generate big plays, and in particular turn the ball over, they had a little bit of success, obviously, doing it last week in Baltimore with that 90-yard interception return by Adrian Amos. Here comes Eddie Jackson, Johnny on the spot, the 75-yard fumble return touchdown, and just like that, even though the Panthers were driving, it's the Bears up 7-0, and you're like, ooh, what's going on here? And then a little bit later in the game, the Panthers are driving again. So it's not like the Bears' defense was completely and totally dominant, and stretches in time, the Carolina Panthers were able to move the ball, but ultimately, turnovers will cost you every time, and you cannot lose the turnover battle on the road and expect to win games. Here's Eddie Jackson once again getting his Mike Brown on, Johnny on the spot, taking another 70-plus yard turnover back to the house for another touchdown. And before you realize it, especially with the first one, it was 7-0, and Trubisky hadn't even touched the field yet. And then it's 14-0, and at that point in time, you wondered if it mattered if Trubisky touched the field at all the rest of the game. But even then, he ultimately did. After the Panthers kicked a field goal to bring it to within 14-3, the Bears close out the second half with a quick strike drive, capped off by that 70-yard bomb from Trubisky to Tariq Cohen. The Bears get down deep into Carolina red zone, meaning deep, like half-yard line, and ultimately settle for 3. It's 17-13, and even watching it at that point in time, it really felt like the game was over. It felt like the Panthers didn't have a chance. And in the second half, the Bears didn't really do much, but they continued to play really good defense, and the Carolina Panthers were just lost. They looked like, I don't want to say they quit, but they just looked like their hearts weren't in it that day, and they just weren't executing. They just weren't very good offensively. You can blame Cam Newton all you want, but the fact is the Bears defense played a really good game. They got after Cam consistently with their pass rush. Their defensive backs outside had a great game in terms of Kyle Fuller, and then the safeties, Adrian Amos, and specifically Eddie Jackson. And now you sit there and you look at the Chicago Bears. Trubisky's 2-1 at a starter, even though he really hasn't done crap. The Bears are sitting at 3-4, and now you're going to get some of the talk of they might not be out of this thing in terms of the NFC North. And as much as I would like to immediately dismiss it, and I still am, and say that's crazy talk, there's no way. If this defense starts to make those big plays and could generate that type of pass rush consistently and play that sound in the secondary, then they could be something to reckon with the rest of the season. an example of a really good bad team. This is still a bad Bears team, but they're playing way above themselves right now. In terms of the good from this game, obviously, you got to go to the defense. The Bears' defense only allowed 3 points. They shut out the Panthers in the second half, even with the Panthers trying to be in comeback mode. The Bears forced 3 turnovers, scored 2 touchdowns off of those 3 turnovers, and got to Cam Newton for 5 sacks. This was a great defensive performance by a Bears team that really needed a great defensive performance against this Panthers team. And then you look at the Bears offensively. There wasn't much to write home about, but they didn't put their team in bad position. 0 turnovers. If you force 3 turnovers and don't turn the ball over yourself, you are going to win a lot of games in the National Football League. That is one of those tried and true recipes for success. Far more often than not, if you win the turnover battle, you will win the game. The Bears dominated the turnover battle, even though they didn't dominate time of possession based off of the way this game broke down, and they dominated the Panthers. Really, once that fumble return happened, it felt like even then it might be over. You might be seeing something. So a great day for the Bears defense. The bad, I got to look offensively. Not surprisingly. The Bears did allow 4 sacks. Not the best environment to put your young quarterback in. You got to protect him better than that. And then, talking about also protecting him, only 7 passing attempts. I know the game flow dictated that you weren't going to need to throw 30 times, but 7 passing attempts. If the Bears keep this up, they are going to run the tread off of Jordan Howard by the time you get to week 9. That mileage is going to catch up on him real quick like. You have got to trust your young quarterback more. There's a reason he is playing and Mike Glennon is not. As a result, you should not coach like you have Mike Glennon in as your starting quarterback. You should coach like you have the young potential face of the franchise of the future playing at quarterback. Got to let him show something like the big bomb to Tariq Cohen. There's no way in hell Mike Glennon makes that throw. And Trubisky did. Trust the kid a little bit more. You've got to, because while it worked this week, in and of itself this week, think about this from the Bears' standpoint. Their offense scored 3 points. You're not winning a lot of games doing that. And if you get to a point where you're always trying to count on your defense to score touchdowns, what happens when they don't? You're in trouble. This is not going to consistently be a tried and true formula for Bears' success in 2017 to play like they did Sunday. Those types of games happen, but you can't count on them consistently. In terms of the ugly, Carolina's performance in general, while their defense was pretty good, what is that really saying against the Bears offense that really wasn't on the field that much and played scared and got into a position early on where they had a big lead and they were just basically on buckle up and hold on mode? But that offense was absolutely putrid. Yes, they had moments where they were able to drive the ball, but again, you just can't turn over the ball like that against a bad team. Because even bad NFL teams, if you put the ball up at jeopardy, will find a way to cash in and capitalize, and you're going to lose those type of games, especially on the road. This offensive performance was bad. Cam Newton was bad. Their running game was bad. I don't think they had a whole lot of life in the deeper passing game. Just an ugly, bad performance. It might be play calling. It might be the players. It's a combination of all of them. But right now, this is the Carolina Panthers team that I thought I saw the first couple of weeks of the year that even though they were 2-1, I looked at them and said, I think they're a 6-win football team. The Carolina Panthers looked like a 5 or 6-win football team on Sunday. Just ugly. The player of the game, who else is it going to be? Eddie Jackson getting his Mike Brown on, being Johnny on the spot, the 70-plus yard fumble return for a touchdown, the 70-plus yard interception return for a touchdown. I mean, to see this come out of the 4th-round rookie, are they great plays or are they just being in the right place at the right time and capitalizing? It's a combination of them, but the bottom line is he got it done. And he was the star of the game. You had other good performances. Calling out Leonard Floyd played well. Kyle Fuller was outstanding again at corner, having a really good year. But obviously the player of the game, the number one reason the Bears won this game was because of Eddie Jackson, because he alone on defense outscored the Carolina Panthers offense 14-3. Just crazy. So now you sit there, the Bears are 3-4, and you wonder what's next and what can they do. Which brings me to the 2-minute drill. And it's funny because when your team is winning, you feel bad sometimes about knocking them. But I've got to call this out because this just really bothered the hell out of me. The Bears are up 14-3 late in the first half. Trubisky's just hit Tariq Cohen on that big 70-yard pass play. The Bears have all the momentum. You're in a position where you could stomp out the Carolina Panthers. You can cut their freaking jugular. You can let them bleed out. It will be over at half, period. You have to go for the touchdown. And instead, John Fox plays it safe and kicks a field goal at the end of the first half when you're on Carolina's half-damn yard line. While it was the high percentage call, and ultimately in the grand scheme of things of this game, it mattered not because it was just 3 points and it put the Bears up 17-13. What happened if Carolina would have been able to come back in the second half, put a couple touchdowns on the board, knowing your offense really hadn't done crap most all game except for this one drive? There's cautious and careful, and then there's what you call chicken shit football. And I'm tired of John Fox and this chicken shit football. At some point in time, you have to show confidence in your team. At some point in time, you have to show that you believe in them. And by this, I mean going for it on fourth down at the freaking half-yard line when you're already up 14-3. You have to show confidence in your offense that you believe that they can get that half yard when you've got Jordan Howard in the backfield, you've got a quarterback that can move on his feet, you've got a couple of tight ends, most notably Zach Miller, that can catch the football, Tariq Cohen that can catch the ball out of the backfield. You have to go for that on fourth down at the half freaking yard line. You're already up 14-3. You were playing with house money. Show some goddamn confidence in your offense that they can figure out a way to get a half freaking yard. Because those are the type of confidence-building moments for an offense. Those are attitude plays. You have to pounce when you get those opportunities. And it also shows confidence in your defense, saying, you know what? We're going for it, but if we don't get it, we're still up 14-3. And I don't think Carolina can score 11 points in the second half on this defense. So I can't imagine the players looked at that and thought this was a good decision. I can't imagine the players looked at this and said this was the best decision for our team. I can't imagine sitting there and kicking the field goal and going up 14 going into the half was one of those rah-rah, God, this is exciting, we're beating the piss out of them type of moments. This was a perfect opportunity to give your young quarterback some confidence. Give your offense some confidence. Also instill some more confidence and belief in your defense that had merited and earned it and deserved it. It's bad enough to be scared of your quarterback and all of this foolishness. Again, ding dong, dumb dick, John Fox. Your quarterback is not Mike Glennon anymore. Stop acting like it. You can't be scared to go for the Panthers' throats here. You can't be afraid that you don't get it. Nothing worthwhile ever came easy. Furthermore, nothing ventured, nothing gained. And it's this type of cowardly chicken shit play calling and decision making that will cost the Bears a game or two later in the year. There was absolutely no reason on the half-yard line right before halftime to not go for it there. Because the way that game was going, the Bears would have found a way to score a touchdown. You're telling me that you don't have something in the playbook that would have gotten you half a freaking yard on fourth down and a Carolina team that you had smacked in the mouth that was on its heels? You got to put those jokers away. And I don't care if the Bears go 8-8 or 9-7 this damn year. This is exactly why John Fox is not the guy. And this is exactly why if the Chicago Bears are stupid enough to keep John Fox around long term, he'll end up screwing up Mitchell Trubisky and they'll be back at 3-13 soon and damn enough anyways.